Hello and welcome to Insight. I am Elizabeth Omori. Today, a couple of issues are before us, but we will begin with electoral participation. Persons with disabilities have fundamental human rights, which include the rights to vote and be voted for, and several platforms have remained active in ensuring that persons with disabilities are mainstreamed into electoral processes. The Independent National Electoral Commission has promised to enhance greater participation of persons living with disabilities come 2023 general elections. Meanwhile, the disability community in Nigeria is still faced with some challenges that could disenfranchise them. That is on our plate this week. Now, millions of children around the globe face different forms of exploitations, including trafficking and child labor. The risk to children is increasing due to the combined effects of pandemic-related school closures and economic distress. Trafficking in persons is found in every country. Perpetrators who engage in these criminal activities target the impoverished. We will also take a peek into this global problem in the course of the program, not forgetting this year's theme, which is use and abuse of technology. It's time to get started, so welcome to Insights.
I'm fascinated with the discourse on national monuments and assets and how much is being done to preserve and celebrate
the language issue. We have turned English to become like a pride value in our own cultural values.
It's not cash transfer. It's not a COVID-19.
Invasion 1897 was a deliberate calculation.
Many of these people coming to the urban areas now.
These and applications, there are terms and conditions.
Of course, it is the union of two people, a man and a woman coming together.
My name is Nambi Odipo.
And I'm Elizabeth Omori. The World Health Organization estimates 15 to 20% of the world's population, approximately 1 million people, living with disabilities. Persons with disabilities are the world's largest minority group, and more than 80% of the world's persons with disabilities live in developing and post-conflict countries. The disability community remains largely excluded from public life and underrepresented in parliaments and political parties, limiting their ability to directly engage in decisions that affect their lives. But through purposeful engagement, this community can challenge barriers that limit their ability to exercise their full rights and responsibilities on an equal basis with others. Well, as Nigerians warm up for the 2023 general election, how prepared is the Disability Commission? The Executive Secretary, National Commission for Persons with Disabilities, Mr. James Lalu, will be sharing with us the level of preparedness, challenges and prospects of the disability community in Nigeria. Mr. James, thank you so much for joining us on Insights.
Thank you so very much.
All right, I would like to start with the Convention of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, which is an international human rights treaty of the United Nations intended to protect the rights and dignity of persons with disabilities. How effective has this treaty been before we go to our focus?
Thank you so very much. One fact here is concerning the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Nigeria is a state party to the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. As you may be aware that Nigeria was among part of the first group of states that signed the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and went ahead to ratify that Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. As we are talking here to do today, based on your question how effective it is because as you see, Nigeria went ahead to domesticate the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. That is why today we have the Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Prohibition Act 2018. This law was signed by His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, and 1 year later he went ahead to establish a National Commission for Persons with Disabilities as part of the Section 31 of the Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Prohibition Act. So based on this, when you look at this now, we are on course now to fully implement the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, protecting the rights and dignity of persons with disabilities in Nigeria, and providing leadership in the West African sub-region as well as leading the African region. Based as you see it today, we say that Nigeria is the giant of Africa, and when you look at it, when you come to disability today, the most intelligent people with disabilities around African sub-region are found here in Nigeria. We say it, we complete to say it. Today, the number of lawyers with disabilities, Nigeria have the highest number of lawyers with disabilities in Africa. When you go to some South African countries today, you will see some of them do not even have the right to go to university, but we have it here in Nigeria. We have professors with disabilities. We have PhD holders with disabilities. We have degree holders with disabilities. We are still battling to give them jobs. We have them in millions today in Nigeria. Thank you.
All right, back to our issue. On the issue of the general election, which is our focus, how prepared are persons with disabilities for the 2023 general elections?
Thank you so very much. When you look at as we approach the 2023 general election, the first thing here is when you look at the new electoral act, it made provision for the right to protecting the rights of persons with disabilities as voters. And when you look at this today, a lot of persons with disabilities have started acquiring their voters card, permanent voters card. The first thing is for us to get the permanent voters card as you see it here. So after getting the permanent voters card, that is where we secure our right to vote and be voted for in any electoral process. So as you see today here, the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities, in collaboration with all other disabled people organizations like the Inclusive Friends Association, the Albino Foundation, Center for Citizens with Disabilities, and many of our own organizations today, we are collaborating to create mass awareness for persons with disabilities to acquire their voters card. As we see it, the continuous voter registration have just commenced. We have over 1 million persons with disabilities already who are already registered voters today. And this is just for those that have registered recently. Then those that already registered voters for many years, they are like me today. My voters card I have not acquired just recently. I have acquired my voters card for many years. So there are a lot of persons with disabilities today who are voters. We have the strength, we have the population, the number of persons with disabilities today. As you rightly say, 15% of the population today in Nigeria. We are over 32.5 million persons with disabilities in Nigeria today. So we have the strength, the power, and the authority today to decide who become the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. When you look at this today, persons with disabilities, the awareness is already being created. We are now aware of our rights and power in the electoral system and what we can be able to do to determine and secure whatever right the disability community are doing. So in this case here, we are advising all the presidential contestants from all the major political parties today to find their way to meet the disability community and find a way to negotiate with the disability community. Our vote is not for play, because we must use our vote, we must use our voting strength today to decide and negotiate what should be for the disability community in the next political dispensation or in the next government. That is the strength that you can see today. So what we are going to do now is that, first of all, by tomorrow, we are going to commence voter awareness program in the 6 area council in the FCT. We have already commenced subsequently in other states, and we are going to push for that to make sure that our people come on board. Our target is to have over 10 million voters with disabilities in Nigeria. Once we are able to do that, negotiations will go on. We look forward to meeting with all of these presidential aspirants to discuss the prospect of disability in their political agenda, their dream and aspirations of what Nigeria should be. It must be an inclusive Nigeria where the rights and dignity of persons with disability is fully protected. His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari has done his best by signing the Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Prohibition Act today in Nigeria and going ahead to establish a National Commission for Persons with Disabilities. We want to negotiate with the next presidents how many slots for ministerial positions are going to be provided to the disability community. We want to negotiate how many ambassadorial positions are going to be reserved for the disability community. We want to negotiate how many MDs must be headed by persons with disabilities, because our vote, the target for the 10 million must go in one direction, and we must make sure that we protect our own interests as a disability community in Nigeria. Nigeria is evolving, disability rights is gaining ground. Nobody can afford to ignore this. We must go on. Thank you.
There are indications that some persons with disabilities may not fully participate in the 2023 general elections because most of them do not have their PVCs. So what will the commission be doing? What steps would the commission be taking to act on this?
We have millions that have already enrolled many years ago already. As I repeat, I am here, you see my card here, my card is here with me here. I have not registered just recently. It has been there with me because I have already been participating in the political process, so we create matter awareness for our people to be part of the system. What the commission is doing now, as I can tell you, we must commend the effort of the national chairman of the Independent Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmoud, who is doing everything possible to protect the rights of persons with disabilities in this process. Today, as provision of our law, it makes it clear, once in any queue line for any other thing here in Nigeria, persons with disabilities must be given the highest priority. So now our people, as we see many other state independent electoral commissioners, resident electoral commissioners in different states are doing this to provide opportunities for persons with disabilities. They have been doing that in Lagos. We see it happening in Plateau. There is another thing happening in Kano, and different other states are already happening. We are in talk with some of the resident electoral commissioners to make sure that they provide opportunities for the disability community. We offer to provide financial support wherever it is necessary so that we can be able to do that. As a national project, we are launching that tomorrow, and we are going to take the whole 1 week here. The INEC have already, the FCT, Resident Electoral Commissioner, have already dedicated specific machines and staff who are expected to be spread over the six area councils in the city to provide this opportunity for our people. As I said, and I will repeat it, our numbers of voters is increasing, and it is time for every political official seekers to come and negotiate with us to find a way so that we can be able to find a way for a better Nigeria.
Interesting. All right, Mr. James, another very critical question is the issue of inclusivity for women. What is the Commission doing specially for women to have inclusion in governance?
Thank you so very much. When you look at our women, especially women with disabilities, they are facing what we call double layers of discrimination in the society today. First of all, they are women. Second, they are women with disabilities. The burden of disability today is increasing, and we are seeing what is happening today in the society. As a National Commission for Persons with Disabilities, to respect the right and dignity of our women with disabilities, we have established a women and gender unit which is handling the women with disabilities issues. We are also in collaboration with the Ministry for Women Affairs and Social Development and all other women rights groups, especially our Disability Rights Advocacy Center, who are working. We have women with disabilities again who have their own different NGOs. We are providing the necessary support for them to see what we can be able to do to protect the rights of women with disabilities. We have also, in a part of our program, we have provided health insurance program to protect their rights in that area. Again, we are in talks with the Federal Ministry for Health, especially the Permanent Secretary, who happen to be a very, very nice and understandable man, who is very, very willing all the time to protect the rights of women with disabilities in the health sector. We are doing everything possible to promote their rights, and together we are dealing with that. Our partnership with the Nigerian police today is helping us to curb discrimination against gender-based violence against women with disabilities. The Inspector General of Police has established disability desk offices in the 36 states of the Federation. We are working with them right now. We have a lot of complex coming up because we have developed an application in your Android phone. When you look into the Android phone, you can find our application NCPW. Once you get that, you download that. There are windows in that application that you can be able to report discrimination against the rights of persons with disabilities anywhere. It provides us opportunity for you to snap picture, record video, and send us evidences where we can be able to collaborate with the Nigerian police to link up with a immediate police station in that area to see how we can be able to investigate that matter and deal with it. We are having a lot of problems at the present. We have a younger brother to a blind person in Abuja State who went ahead to kill his own brother because he is blind, just because of dispute on land. We have a problem in Kaduna here and other states. Some of the states involve a speaker of the State House of Assembly discriminating against the rights of persons with disabilities. We are making the proper approach to that to make sure that we deal with this type of situation to bring it to an end. We are collaborating with all security and para-security agencies. Our partnership with the Nigerian Civil Defense will commence very, very soon so that we can be able to cope this and deal with the situation. Once we start sending people to court, once we start dealing with this type of situation, we are going to manage the problems. Domestic gender-based domestic violence against women with disabilities must stop in Nigeria.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very good. Now, back to the issue of women. I have to dwell on this issue probably because I'm a woman. I was opportune to be invited to a program on primary healthcare for women. We understand that we do not really have disability desks in our hospitals to help women. Now, some of them come in for antenatal care. What efforts would the Commission be making to ensure that we have desks in our hospitals, especially primary health care centers?
Thank you so very much. You may be aware that we have started this type of partnership with the National Hospital in Abuja here.
Okay.
As I said earlier, we have provided a health insurance program for about 500 persons with disabilities right now. The Commission is just kicking up. We are just trying to mobilize funds at the moment so that the budgetary allocation for the Commission can be more expandable so that we can be able to approach these issues far more better. Additionally, if you get it clearly, just recently we have employed sign language interpreters, and the next batch of it, we are going to employ almost 100 of these sign language interpreters very soon. We thank the head of service of the Federation for her magnanimity and love for the disability community, which is always very much ready to provide us all the necessary support we need as an institution to enable us grow, to provide the necessary services for the disability community. So the sign language interpreters, some of them have been deployed to some of these hospitals at the moment. Any person with disability or a deaf person who is visiting a medical doctor can make a direct request to us through our email or through our phone line or through our application. We have a window to make that request, and we are going to send an interpreter to the hospital at no cost to the person with a disability whatsoever. So in this case here, on the issue of accessibility, we are dealing with that in a fundamental way, because when you look at accessibility, the law make provision to deal with accessibility issues, and it involves by a 5-year moratorium, a period where we have to make sure that we create the necessary awareness to educate the entire society before we start enforcing the section of the act and dealing and fining people. So in this case here, the 5 year is almost rounding up. This is an opportunity to educate everybody to understand that the 5 year is almost rounding up, and by January 2024, the 5 year will be closed. Once the 5 year is closed, your house, your building, your hospital, whatever business area you have to make sure that you make the necessary adjustment. As an institution, we have gone ahead to produce an accessibility minimum standard document for Nigeria, which is about 220 something pages of paper. We are now working with relevant approving authority to be sure that we are getting necessary approval for this document. We will print it and make it available everywhere. Our hotel owners, we hear this today, that every step in every entrance, it is discriminating against the right of persons with disability to have a free access. Whether you have school, whether you have everywhere, you have to make sure that you make the necessary adjustment in that environment. We are going to provide this document so that this document have a specific measurement, specific standard for every accessibility facility. So once we do that, we provide the document. We are waiting for the 5 year to ram up. We will create the necessary awareness within our ability. Once that one is round up, then we will begin to find people. If you don't do it, if you believe you cannot be able to do it, you will pay for it. And the law made it very clearly. You must pay for it.
Before I take you again on the issue of elections, let's quickly talk about reorientation of other members of society. Behavioral change. What would you be expecting from the other group in society on how to treat persons with disabilities?
Thank you so very much. Equality started even from our Bible and our holy books, the Quran. Everywhere when you look at it, God made us equal. In the history of creation, God does not discriminate
at all.
And as a Christian, when you look at it, through Jesus Christ, gave attention to persons with disabilities in different areas. So in this case, when you look at the story of the blind, you look at the story of the deaf, and you look at the story of the lepers, all God have given them attention. Nobody today in this world is immune to disability. I will repeat it again. Nobody is immune to disability. Whatever you do, whatever good you do, whatever best you do for the disability community, you may be preparing ground for your own, for yourself. I was not born deaf. I was born hearing. I did my primary, secondary school completely. It was at my last year at an NCE program in a college of education in Gindiri that I lost my hearing ability. I never knew that I would join the disability community. This is a way for everybody to learn and understand this, that we are all on our own way. God have not finished your creation until that very day you are buried. Without that, God can be able to transit you from what you are today to another position wherever. There are a lot of persons with disability today that have created disability through accident, through sickness, different way. We want everybody to understand that nobody bought disability. Nobody sit down and invite prayer warriors to come and pray for you to acquire disability. It is not like that. So in this case here, the society belongs to all of us. There is already a law. We are trying our best to create the awareness. We understand that there are people that who are willing to hear. There are people that who are not willing to hear. There are people that who can hear the advice, can hear our awareness creation, but they are not willing to act. We have this problem. When you look at section 29 of the discrimination against persons with disabilities, it made provision for just 5% employment opportunity for persons with disabilities. But to my greatest surprise, some of these places, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation went ahead to provide a service-wide circular to support the enforcement of this section, to call on all employers available, much especially within the federal government agencies, parastatal institutions. But still, some are still proven to be very hard. Some are still not willing to accommodate that, to provide just this opportunity for disability community. So these are something that we need to understand. And then once there is a law, we are going to do everything possible to enforce that section of the law, to call on everybody to look at it. The National Assembly just recently invited me. When they invited me to discuss about this matter, we explained to them everything. There is a need for everybody to understand that disability is not sickness. Disability is not what other people may see like juju have entered you or any other spirit. It is not like that. It is part of life. But disability is part of human diversity. We have to respect the rights and dignity of persons with disabilities. Thank you.
All right, finally, before I let you go, Mr. James, on the issue of security for persons with disabilities come 2023 general elections, can you give us an assurance?
There is assurance of security, and we are going to go ahead to train the security agencies on how to handle persons with disabilities in crowd and in whatever situation. These voters, these people, the ad hoc staffs that are going to go there, INEC has given us heavy assurances that they are going to maintain that 5 to 10% of the engagement of the disability community. So once that is done, the disability community will be there as INEC staff who are going to protect their own people. The security agencies will be properly trained. All the adult staff will be properly trained so that the first batch of people to do their vote are expected to be persons with disabilities. Our people cannot afford to remain there until 6, 7, 8 p.m. during voting time. We will do our vote at under the sun so that everybody will see us. After finishing, we go. We must do and train all security agencies to provide the necessary support for the disability community in that area. Thank you.
Mr. James Lalu, Executive Secretary, National Commission for Persons with Disabilities, thank you so much for coming on Insight.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much.
Hoping that their educational deprivation is not the end of the world.
Agencies and stakeholders to proactively tackle these challenges.
Women in most countries of the world constitute about 50% of registered voters. Williams, reporting for Dateline 360.
Then Jones, Caleb Gochin, Deadline 360.
Naja Atiti,
Like 360.
Chidi Okrafo.
For Dateline 360.
In Lagos, Michael Olaleye.
Reporting for Deadline 360.
I am Omosola Omojola. Thanks for tuning in.
Human trafficking and migrant smuggling are global and widespread crimes that use men, women and children for profit. The organized networks or individuals behind these lucrative crimes take advantage of people who are vulnerable, desperate or simply seeking a better life. UNODC strives for the eradication of these crimes through the dismantling of criminal enterprises that trade in people and the conviction of the main perpetrators. In 2018, about 50,000 victims were detected and reported by 148 countries. 50% of detected victims were trafficked for sexual exploitation, 38% were exploited for forced labor, and female victims continue to be the primary targets. As a global phenomenon, Nigeria is not excluded. How do we put an end to this crime against humanity? My guest, Abdulganiyu Abubakar, President, Network Against Child Trafficking, will provide insight. Mr. Ganiyu, thank you so much for joining us on Insight.
Thank you for having me.
Well, as a critical actor in this fight, human trafficking is a global problem. Are we winning the war against this menace?
Thank you. We are making tremendous progress, but we are not yet there. Okay. So I believe we are not winning yet. So much needs to be done.
Why are we not there yet?
Thank you. Trafficking in persons is one of the transnational organized crime and one of the fastest growing criminal industries in the world, where the cartel controls a lot of resources. It is transnational in nature in the sense that it happens between countries. So it is not just a crime that is specific to one country or entity. Virtually all countries of the world are affected in one way or the other, either as a source, transit, or destination country. So this makes the response very complex, and then of course it requires all stakeholders to drive a multi-sectoral approach and intervention to respond to this crime.
Let's talk about this year's theme, use and abuse of technology.
Trafficking in persons continue to evolve as a dynamic industry. The traffickers themselves are people who are intelligent. They have very strong networks globally, and then gradually they are also devising means to further exploit young men and women from across the world. So of course, with the advent of COVID-19, there were restrictions in movement. At a point, the whole world was at a standstill. But then, as intelligent as the traffickers are, they eventually devised new means of exploiting young men and women using these various social media platforms, luring them with opportunities, with white-collar opportunities that, of course, are not there, making our young people believe the grass is greener at the other end. So even while the lockdown for COVID-19 lasted, a lot of young men and women were exploited and trafficked in and out of Nigeria through the porous border communities. It will interest you to know that a lot of the states in the northern part of Nigeria that have porous border communities, entry and exit points between Nigeria, Niger Republic, Benin Republic, and other West African countries were never locked down. So even while other parts of Nigeria were locked down, there were free movement of people, goods and services in some of these states. So the traffickers exploit that avenue to recruit a lot of young people using social media in and out of Nigeria. So they also invest resources in ensuring that they sophisticate the ways through which they exploit young people. Now, for example, there are very specific social media platforms or apps that are used to lure young people into prostitution, sex slavery, exploitation in different parts of the world using different means. You now have travel agencies, you now have labor recruitment agencies also being accomplices in this industry of trafficking in persons and smuggling of migrants. While a lot of families are at home trying to cope with the lockdown, these traffickers are there engaging children and young men using the different social media platforms to say, oh, even if Nigeria is locked down, even if the world is locked down, of course you can still make money, you can still earn resources using different means. And as a result of that, they recruit these young people through these social media platforms, and then they traffic them in and out of this country. We saw a lot of cases. I am based in Sokoto and I work from Sokoto, and then in the border between Nigeria and Niger Republic, from Ilela to Tawa in Sokoto, from Kamba in Kebbi State to Benin Republic, and some other porous northern border towns in Adamawa, Taraba and Maiduguri, we received a lot of young people who were trapped from security agencies of our neighboring countries, who have been trafficked out of this country to the other end. Some of them trafficked from other West African countries into Nigeria for different purposes. So I must say that our security network is not working very well to be able to track this, and that is why the traffickers were able to recruit and traffic a lot of young people during this period of the lockdown. But then, of course, we are learning from it. It is an emerging issue, and then civil society organizations, development partners, and even government institutions have learned from that. And then now we are realigning our interventions to ensure that we catch up these young people right from their homes, their communities, their schools, from where these traffickers recruit and exploit them, so that before the strike, we will be able to, of course, sensitize them, create awareness on the red flags, and then the strategy of these people who do not mean well for the society.
I'm happy you mentioned the porosity of our borders. Are there efforts to be taken to strengthen security at the borders? Because, of course, there will be trade facilitation, and most times these traffickers, perpetrators, they come under the guise of trade. Most times people walk into another country with their legs, not even with vehicles. So how do we strengthen our borders?
Thank you. I think that the government of Nigeria and other development partners have had series of interventions and projects around border security, but I would say that so much still needs to be done, in the sense that these porous border communities are many and widespread in Nigeria. For example, in Sokoto to Ilela to Kwani to Tawa to Agadas, from where these people move into other parts of the world, we have mapped over 66 illegal routes apart from the official routes manned by the Nigerian Immigration Service and other security agencies. About 66 in just 2 local government areas out of the 23 local government areas of Sokoto State, just one state in Nigeria. Then if you go to Kebbi State, you have the Kamba axis that shares border with Benin Republic and in turn with Niger Republic. If you go to Adamawa, if you go to Taraba, if you go to Maiduguri, you have all these porous border communities that are uncountable. We are still mapping and still counting. And in these porous border communities, there are no security agencies. Even in demand border communities, like you said, we still have motorists, like in Ilela, for example, they charge, apart from the official transport fare, people move barefooted across the borders from Nigeria into Niger Republic. Intermarriages, there is free movement of people, goods and services along our border communities without check. And this does not just aid trafficking and smuggling of migrants alone, it has also contributed to the insecurity we are having in Nigeria. A lot of these elements who fuel insecurity in Nigeria got access to Nigerian communities through these porous border communities. So there has been, of course, interventions by development partners, notably the International Organization on Migration, to support what we call border surveillance. But then that has not worked so much. So the government of Nigeria, through the various security agencies working at the entry and exit points, needs to do more to ensure that our borders are not just properly policed, but then there is intelligence gathering, intelligence policing, so that together we can make these locations safe, so that we can reduce the level of insecurity as well as the exploitation of our children through these routes.
Well, it's quite unfortunate that whenever we talk about crimes, there's always the family factor. But with the global economic realities, do we see this menace ending soon? Because people use enticing means to promote trafficking, and unsuspecting families are preyed.
We need to do a lot of work to further study the patterns and the emerging trends. But as God will have it, the Nigerian response is also dynamic. It is changing. We are improving with the new leadership in the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, National Commission for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons, and other government ministries, departments and agencies with anti-human trafficking mandates, with our growing number of international development partners with robust interventions, and then the activities of civil society organizations spread across Nigeria. I think the level of awareness is increasing. Young people are being engaged more to understand these red flags, to understand that the grass is not greener over there as it is being speculated, and then also to make these young people gainfully employed and engaged in Nigeria so that they will not be enticed to go out. Most of the young people we have come across, men and women, boys and girls in other parts of the West Africa or Africa, even the world, who are trafficked out, we are lured in the name of gainful employment. So when you go out there, if you are paid 1,000 naira for your skills here in a day, you will get equivalent of 5 or 10,000 naira when you go out. Now, of course, upon hearing this, our young people who are vulnerable, they will be very willing to move. All these are factors that motivate our young people to be willing to move, and by so doing, they fall into the hands of these traffickers who use them not just for sexual exploitation, labor purposes these days. Now, organ trafficking has come in. A lot of young people are trafficked and their organs are harvested and sold at very exorbitant rates at the black market, at the organ markets, and then these young people are left to die of complications arising from all these practices. So I think the government of Nigeria, the international development partners, the civil society organizations and even the media needs to do more to take this awareness and sensitization to the grassroots communities, and then of course also strengthen intelligence gathering and then improve on prosecution of these offenders. There are high profile cases of trafficking, smuggling that are left unprosecuted, but then I think that the present administration of NAPTIP is also focusing on prosecuting high profile cases of trafficking in persons. So I think with this, I believe the Nigerian intervention will improve, and then gradually we will get to the desired destination.
Okay, before I take you on the issue of prosecution, I need you to talk more on the role of the family, because we're celebrating the week, we're creating awareness this week on the dangers of this menace. Some families will still sponsor these children out. Some families are aware, but the family is in support of him going out, even at age 16. What does this portend for our younger generation?
Certainly, you are very right. In our Nigerian communities today, that social safety nets that often provide protection for our children and young people have been broken for a very long time. So it is no longer the era where a child belongs to everyone. And then I agree with you that the family contributes a lot. In the last 17 years, I have worked actively in this space across Nigeria, the West African sub-region, and Africa as a whole. And most of the young men and women who have been trafficked out of this country that we had the opportunity of interacting with and even returning, rehabilitating and supporting have the hands of their families. Their families are very much aware of what they were going out there to do. We've had instances where we return some young girls and the parents will say, oh, this is bad luck for us. I've had a father who told me, what is your business if I have 12 children and I send 2 out? Even if they die, I have 10 more and I can still produce more. A father telling me this. We've had instances where families contribute, where community leaders are the ones responsible for recruiting children, asking families to contribute into basket of funds to be able to support these children to be trafficked out of this country. And then when they go out of this country, like I said, the grass is not always greener. We have also had the opportunity of following these routes from Nigeria to a lot of West African countries, North Africa, and even the routes they follow to other parts of Europe. A lot of these, our young girls and boys, end up in these West African countries on transit. And do you know who their clients are? Okada riders. Some of these Okada riders will have the wheelbarrow pushers, the manual laborers. These are their clients in the various brothels where they end up. So the deceit is there. The grass is not always greener, but then the family has a role to play, and that is why in our awareness as civil society organizations, in the various sensitization and awareness and engagements program by the government of Nigeria through NAPTIP and other international development partners, we are targeting the families, we are targeting religious and community leaders to add their voice to this response to trafficking in persons. Every family should know that they have the responsibility to provide care for their children. The family is the first level of socialization. Then the community have their own role, community leaders, and then of course the government. Overall, the government has the responsibility of ensuring that all citizens are adequately protected, including these our young men and women who are trafficked out. So the family has a role to play, and we are using this opportunity, looking at the theme of this year's celebration, use and abuse of technology, to call on families, to call on parents to be more vigilant. Please give back to the number of children you can adequately cater of. It's not just the issue of resources. Even if you have the resources, the quality time you need to give to your kids to know who are their friends, what are they doing, where are they. Even if they need to go out for studies, if they need to go out to work, what are they doing there, how are they doing it, who are they working with. Now all this is very important and requires quality time for parents and communities to be able to engage with their words. I think this is very important. If we get it right at the level of the family, at the level of the communities, then together we will continue to engage the state actors to ensure that they play their role.
Interesting. Now, to the issue of prosecution, for any parents, victims, the traffickers themselves that are caught, shouldn't they all be prosecuted?
Of course they should. To be able to prosecute cases diligently, you need adequate funding, You need competent law enforcement officers, state councils that will be able to prosecute these cases. Because of course, like I said, the traffickers have access to resources. They have the resources to employ the best lawyers anywhere in the world. So the government should also have in its employment legal officers, prosecutors who are also as good as private practitioners that these traffickers and their collaborators engage. So until and unless we are able to have a good legal system, a robust legal system with adequate training and exposure of our state councils, it will be very difficult for us to match these traffickers who have all the resources at their disposal. And then of course, high profile cases. The President Director General of NAPTIP made this as part of our priority to ensure that high profile cases of trafficking are adequately prosecuted, and I think she is working very well because the number of prosecution is increasing now, and then NAPTIP is becoming more diligent in prosecuting cases of trafficking in persons across Nigeria. If you go to so far from January to June this year, they've recorded over 28 case prosecution of cases of human trafficking, and so many more in the pipeline. And I think the various zonal and state commands are also doing well in terms of improving networking and collaboration among different security agencies and community stakeholders to ensure that these traffickers are apprehended before they move out with these victims out of Nigeria. And even where they succeed in doing so, with collaboration between Nigeria security agencies and others from other countries, they are apprehended and brought to justice.
The issue of integration is another aspect of this menace. You know, when victims are rescued, NIDCOM swings into action, NAPTIP swings into action, and other non-governmental organizations on trafficking, they all swing into action to help the victims. What is the level of integration like to sustain the lives of these victims? Because some can't even go back home, some have lost everything they had.
Exactly. Now, I think from the civil society perspective, for us, we have a very robust program, an all-inclusive program that has 8 steps. We have what we call the standard, which of course NAPTIP representing the federal government of Nigeria has also put in place policies and procedures to provide holistic support for victims of trafficking and other related crimes. Now, for civil society organizations, we have a robust program that begins from quality identification, providing protection and support for these victims until they are reintegrated back into their communities and families. And then we also continue with economic or educational support for them, following up with monitoring to ensure that they are doing well. And then we also have a program of alternative care. Before any child or young person is reintegrated back into the family or community, as civil society organizations, we do what we call family tracing. We interface with the family to be sure that first of all, the family is not a collaborator, and then of course the home front is also conducive for this person to return. In the event that the home front is not conducive, from our interaction and from the assessment of the family, we do what we call alternative placement. Now, this alternative placement could be in shelters, which could be short-term or long-term shelters. It could be with foster families. It could be with some role model mothers or caregivers that we have worked with and supported over a period of time, who are also credible and known to the communities. So there are different approaches, both on the side of the civil society organizations, the government partners, and then the international development partners, to ensure that survivors are not just identified and returned home, but they are adequately protected and empowered, including psychosocial support and trauma management. Now,
it's the week of awareness. We're creating awareness on the dangers of this menace, this crime. What would be your words to parents, government, traffickers themselves, and those warming up to go the legal way?
Thank you. And let me start with the traffickers. Trafficking in persons is a crime against humanity, it's a crime against the states, and then the federal government of Nigeria working with NAPTIP and other development partners, are doing everything humanly possible to ensure that trafficking is eradicated. So stiffer penalties await those who are venturing or have already ventured into this industry. So we call on them to desist from this criminal act against humanity. Then to parents, it is important that we revisit our parenting strategies. In the 21st century, our children are more enlightened. They have access to social media. They have access to all sorts of devices that expose them to the world. So as parents, we should also go a step ahead of them to ensure that we improve our parenting skills such a way that we will give adequate care and protection to our children. The family is always the first level of socialization. Let's go back to that good practice where we are coming from, where every child belongs to everyone, belongs to the community. Let's bring back that social safety net that provides protection for everyone in the community before. And then, of course, to civil society organizations, development partners, press, we have a role to play in ensuring that we contribute to the efforts of the families and the communities. And then to the government, of course, the primary responsibility of every government is to ensure the protection of life and property of its citizens, including protecting our children, young men and women from all forms of exploitation, including trafficking in persons. So we call on the government of Nigeria to make available more funding, more budgetary allocation and release to NAPTIP. NAPTIP is the focal government agency. It has so much work to do, from prevention to protection to partnership to policy and to prosecution. It is a huge task, and then we encourage the government and the National Assembly to make available resources and ensure that such resources are adequately and timely released for us to prosecute this intervention.
Mr. Abdulganiyu Abubakar, I want to thank you so much for coming on Insight. Thank you for your thoughts.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
Viewers.
And that's Insight this week. Thank you so much for your time. Remember to remain patriotic, be nice, and be your brother's keeper. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.
NTA Tuesday Live, analytical, in-depth, educative, and interactive on national issues, accommodating all sides of opinions.
We as a people have understood that we have to fight corruption before it fights us back.
Poverty has a financial index, so it should be fought also with a financial weapon. Give it to the social investments program. It has been a very courageous battle.
Tuesday Live, every Tuesday at 10:30 p.m. Join us.
And there's a start again. Sheriff, heads up that way. Archbishop of basketball.
He hung on that net like a stalk up a tree.
NTA Sports 24 brings you all sports, all time and all day. Tune in to watch NTA Sports 24 on Star Times Channel 270, Star Sat on Channel 434, Free TV on Channel 731. NTA Sports 24, where sports thrive.
From dusk to dawn, 24 hours a day, NTA International is with you in your living room, office, everywhere and anywhere. We provide the company you desire in terms of balanced and up-to-date news, programs and the best of entertainment. Tune in to DSTV channel 251, GoTV channel 91, Freeview UK channel 264, or you can download www.visiontv.co.uk. App for iOS or Android. You can also see us on Facebook and YouTube for quality content on the go. NTA International, Africa's window to the world.
Data from the Nigeria Center for Disease Control about the spread of monkeypox are not cheering. While Nigeria and indeed the rest of the world is celebrating a lull in the spread of COVID-19 and coming up with plans to reverse its impact, a resurgence of monkeypox silently crept in on us, with figures from September 2017 standing at 869 suspected cases as of July 24, 2022 in 35 states. 3 confirmed cases have already led to 3 deaths from 3 states. Apart from aiding and complementing surveillance at the national and subnational levels by the Disease Control Center, public awareness is quite crucial at this point to drive prevention and other non-pharmaceutical management. So, on Panorama today, our focus will be on how members of the public can take ownership of the efforts to fight the scourge. Do not forget that you can follow this news broadcast live on our website at nta.ng/live and on our YouTube at NTA News Online. You can also visit our Facebook page at NTA Network News, Twitter handle at NTA News Now, and on Instagram at NTA Network for updates. I am Hinginu John Adams. Welcome to Panorama. We begin with the Minister of State Petroleum Resources, Timothy Silva, on the sideline of a stakeholders engagement in Abuja by the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, told journalists that the federal government has not removed subsidy on petrol. He says any increase in pump price is not from government.
We have not deregulated. The government is subsidizing. If there are increases in price, it is not from the government. It's probably from the marketers.
OPEC Secretary General Haitham Al-Ghais of Kuwait has assumed office with the commitment to continue in the strive towards the stability of the global oil market following the legacies of his predecessor, the late Mohammed Sanusi Barkindo. As part of his first assignment, OPEC Secretary General spoke with Nigerian journalists via a virtual meeting through which he paid glowing tributes to the late Mohammed Sanusi Barkindo. Media Samson reports that shortly on assumption of office, Al-Ghais interacted with some Nigerian journalists during a virtual media briefing. He commended his predecessor for his effort towards achieving balance and stability in the global oil market. He says, as Secretary General of OPEC, late Barkindo championed the producer-consumer dialogue aimed at establishing a consensus on some of the major issues of concern to all parties, such as market stability, security of demand and supply, investment and sustainable development. While condoling with Nigeria and Barkindo's passing, Al-Ghais said the former OPEC scribe's death is a big loss not only to Nigeria and the oil industry in Africa, but also to the entire world. He expressed the hope that he would be able to build on the many legacies and policies Barkindo built and left behind. Al-Ghais acknowledged Nigeria's stature as a key member of OPEC, representing Africa since 1970. He commended the initiative to undertake the construction of a regional gas pipeline that would convey Nigeria's gas to Algeria. He described the project as a significant development aimed at positioning Africa to take advantage of the opportunities in the world's energy market. Now talking election matters, INEC has officially released 12,298,944 as the number of voters registered before the suspension of the exercise on the 31st of July 2022. This was contained in a weekly post of INEC on Monday, 1st August. Adding this number to the existing voter strength of 84,004,084 before the 2019 elections brings the total number of voters in the 2023 elections to 96,303,028. Reports coming from the ECOWAS Situation Room indicate that more civil education is needed and that more physically challenged persons should be carried along in the electoral process. These were some of the issues raised as ECOWAS mission observers presented their reports. Hamman Jabani reports.
The fortnight ECOWAS mission observers were able to cover a total of 2,937 polling stations during the legislative elections. Briefing the head of the mission, heads of the various teams commended the commission for giving them the opportunity. And while carrying out the assignments, they observed that There were large turnouts of elderly and women, but that could not be said of the youth. Several physically challenged persons could not access their unit due to the structures of the polling stations. They observed the high presence of security personnel. All electoral processes were carried out professionally and no irregularity were witnessed.
On our own case, because we stayed in this situation room after we came, we also had that there are some localities like Bambi that due to the rain that they were unable to, they had to extend the time of the voting. There's also the temporary cessation of voting in one or two areas as well, which they mentioned to us.
Head of the mission, ECOWAS ambassadors and parliament speak on the observations.
Everything went perfectly well, and it is also the views of the members of our situation room who reported to us that all over the territory of Senegal, it is the same observation. So as head of mission, I am satisfied of the work of my team, and also we are satisfied on the way this election were carried out.
When we talk about strengthening democracy, the government has maintained that Nigeria's tradition on trying to assist those countries, both technical and even economic support whenever election is coming up in any of these countries.
7:30, 80% of those people who are standing outside waiting were the older generation, and I must also commend the ladies, our mothers, and for exercising the civic education.
So the Parliament will make that recommendation that we must have a set budget aside to be proactive in our operations.
ECOWAS preliminary reports is expected soon. From Dakar, Hamman Jabani, NTA News.
On to the issue of the day. Just when the country began to heave a sigh of relief from the coronavirus pandemic, monkeypox sneaked in and put key players in the health sector on their heels again to tame the spread. This report gives us an assessment of the level of understanding of the ailment among Lagos residents and what relevant authorities are doing to tame the spread. Since the first case of monkeypox in Nigeria in September 2017, the country has recorded other cases intermittently. After the last case and experience in 2019 and 2020, no death was recorded from the viral infection again until this year 2022, when it was reported that the disease claimed the life of a 40-year-old man who had underlying health issues. The strategic position of Lagos State in terms of population and various international borders places it at high risk. Enlightenment among Lagos residents is important and raises a crucial question. How much do they know about monkeypox?
It's contagious, and I also know that it has the symptoms like malaria. I don't have much idea about what monkeypox is.
It spreads fast. I don't know whether it's similar to chickenpox.
I think it's a disease that's spread like a symptoms. That's all I know.
With this, concerns are being raised by medical experts on the need to adequately equip the populace with knowledge on preventive measures.
The patient can present with fever, present with cough, but most importantly is the rash.
If that rashes and inflammation, you see, the skin is not properly managed, it can get secondarily infected.
Relevant authorities are putting measures in place to contain the spread.
We produce a sit-rep every week, and that sit-rep is published open access on our website. We do know that there's an association between increased severity of monkeypox and the increased risk of death in people who have immunosuppressive conditions.
Although the World Health Organization, WHO, believes that the monkeypox situation is unlikely to escalate into a full-blown pandemic, experts are urging Nigerians to promptly report symptoms to prevent escalation of the disease. Now, Joining me for more discussion on how to tame the spread of monkeypox, leveraging public awareness, is Professor Rosemary Audu, the Director, Research and Head, Microbiology Department at the Nigerian Institute of Medical Research, NIMA. Thanks for coming on Panorama. My pleasure. Thank you. All right, let's begin on this note. Can you educate us on the virus and its symptoms?
Thank you very much. So, monkeypox is an illness that is caused by the monkeypox virus, and it's zoonotic in nature, meaning that man can acquire it from animals, and also it can be transmitted from person to person. And this virus is like for it to be transmitted, there has to be a close contact. There has to be close contact. It could be face to face, it could be skin to skin, it could be mouth to mouth or mouth to skin. And even sexual transmission has been reported in the developed world, where this virus has also spread to. So the virus is not as contagious as smallpox, even though they're in the same family, but it's not as contagious. Most people that have the infection present with mild illness, but there are a few people that it could become severe and develop complications that could even result to death, and these include children, pregnant women, and people with immunodeficiency. They are at major risk. Everybody is at risk of the infection. Anybody could be infected. So I guess there's this stigmatization that is going out there that is discouraging people from owning up, but I think we shouldn't stigmatize anybody, because it could be just anybody, and the way it will be, one can get infected, there has to be this close contact. And also, even from animals, those who are at risk, for instance, we know those who are close association with people who are infected, close contact can get infected if they don't protect themselves. And then we also know that even those who handle animals that are sick or dead have to also, they are also at risk also, so they need to protect themselves. And even in our own environment, we also need to, because we eat a lot of animals, we have to boil it very well to ensure that there's no trace of it. So this virus is the increase. The virus has spread into 50 countries right now.
Okay, talking about the spread. Yeah. Now, in Nigeria, we have 35 states that have reported cases. So, what is responsible for this widespread?
Well, I think the virus is a virus that we are still trying to understand more. Some genetic analysis are still going out to know what is responsible for this spread. For instance, we know from the spread in the developed world now, where we find that most of the cases have been in West Africa and Central Africa before now. And in 2017, we now start having more recurrent cases. But now they have reported cases in the developed world where it wasn't reported before now. And they are now finding it majorly amongst men who have sex with men. So it's taking a different shape, it's different pattern now. So there's a lot that is still going on. We do not know. We do not know how it has the nucleic acid, the DNA has been found in semen, but we do not know if that is what transmits it. But we know that the symptoms, for instance, of this virus, they have fever. Those who are infected come down with fever. They come down also with
headache, and then this rash. They have swollen lymph nodes, and they have loss of energy, and then the rash now comes out later, maybe from the head, from the face, and then to the extremes, the palms, and then the sole of the feet. But the thing is, mother to child also could occur. The child can be infected from a mother that is positive. It is not also clear how this infection takes place in these babies.
All right, Prof, let me stop you temporarily. I said temporarily because we have some messages to pay. The discussion will continue after the break.
It's legal to stand with NTA and stand against rape and rapists.
Save me, save my children. I stand with NTA. I stand against rape and rapists.
I stand with NTA. I'm a star.
I stand with NTA. I'm a star.
Inshallah, I stand with NTA. I stand against rape and rapists.
I stand with NTA. I stand against rape and rapists.
I stand with NTA. I stand against rape and rapists.
I stand with NTA. I am a star.
I stand with NTA. I stand against rape and rapists.
I align my patriotism with NTA in the fight and crusade against rape and rapists.
NIFA, I stand with NTA. I stand against rape and rapists.
Join millions of Nigerians, stand with NTA, stand against rape and rapists. That victim is one of us. Speak up and speak out. Be a star. This message is from the Nigerian Television Authority.
Thanks for being there. I've been discussing with Professor Rosemary Audu, the Director Research and Head Microbiology Department at the Nigerian Institute of Medical Research. So, Prof, moving on, COVID-19 came and we saw a significant improvement in the area of vaccine production in NIMA. So, where are we now talking about monkeypox?
Okay, in the Nigerian Institute of Medical Research, we are also doing some work there. We have produced some PCR assays, which we have also contacted NCDC, and we're working together, and they've asked us to bring the assay so that we can validate the assay. We'll need to test some clinical samples, just to be sure that the performance of our assay, that it's good enough. Because currently in the country, most tests are done at the reference lab in Abuja. So if there are suspected cases, the samples are collected and all sent to Abuja. And we know that that is not adequate for this nation. So we need to do more testing, and I guess if we have the ease of testing, maybe people will get to know what their status is and know how to protect themselves better. And talking about the spread of this virus in Nigeria, like I was mentioning to you, it's the virus is beginning to display in unusual patterns that we need to study more about it. And because previously it was mainly detected in West Africa and Central Africa, not much had been done. But now that we have cases in the European world and the Americas, in 50 countries globally, they have reported this. I think there's much more now that is going on. It's like it's an enemy that you cannot easily detect. It will be difficult for you to be able to wage war against it. So we need to improve on diagnosis, which is what NIMA has come on board and we are working on right now.
Prof, briefly, we know that Lagos is densely populated. What should government do to keep monkeypox at bay?
All right. Fortunately, monkeypox can be transmitted by direct contact, with the lesions, direct contact with individuals who are infected. So people need to know what their risk is so that they'll know how to protect themselves. And everybody to start with is at risk. It could just be anybody. But if we know that somebody is ill with this rash, then we can, such a person should isolate himself. Of course, report first to the health facility, your clinic, and so that they'll be able to tell, because this rash also could present like herpes or syphilis, as it was reported in the developed world, because most of them were picked up from the sexual clinics. But it also, for the children, it could also present like chicken pox, so it's just not every rash. It's better to visit your clinic, and then they'll be able to tell what it is. And if you know there's somebody that has it, you just separate the person, isolates himself, and take it. But we also need to support such people, so that we encourage people coming out themselves, for testing.
All right, thank you very, very much for that information. Thank you, Professor. That was Professor Rosemary Audu. Moving on now, let's now join the sports desk for details from the sports world.
The West African Football Union